The last text from Zainab arrived at 2:47 a.m. I hope you're doing okay. 3 weeks into no contact, and Ophelia stared at those 5 words like they held the secrets of the universe. Her South Korean American therapist had warned her about this. The breadcrumbs, the late-night messages that said everything and nothing at once. But here's what nobody tells you about no contact. Silence isn't always silence. Sometimes the person who left is drowning just as much as you are. They're just better at holding their breath. This is the story of how Ophelia learned to read between the lines and what those cryptic signs from her ex really meant. Ophelia met Zainab 3 years ago at a poetry slam in Brooklyn. Zainab, British Pakistani, with eyes like burnt honey and a voice that could make you believe in fate, had performed a piece about her grandmother's migration story. Ophelia, a black Brazilian photographer with locks that cascaded past her shoulders, had been there to document the event. Their connection was immediate, electric, the kind that makes you rearrange your entire life without thinking twice. The breakup came suddenly. Zainab said she needed space to figure herself out, that the relationship felt too intense, too consuming. She moved out of their Bed-Stuy apartment on a Tuesday, leaving behind the smell of her bergamot perfume and a closet full of questions Ophelia couldn't answer. The therapist, Dr. Kim Min-ji, a woman in her 50s who wore geometric glasses and had a calming presence, suggested 30 days of no contact. It gives both of you clarity, she explained during their session, and it stops you from becoming someone you're not. Desperate, pleading, small. Ophelia lasted 6 days before she started noticing the patterns. First, there was Instagram. Zainab, who typically posted her carefully curated book recommendations and aesthetic coffee photos, had gone silent for exactly 4 days after the breakup. Then suddenly, a flurry of stories, all designed to show she was thriving. A sunset from Prospect Park, a new novel, a group dinner with friends Ophelia didn't recognize. But here's what Ophelia noticed. Zainab was watching her stories, every single one, within minutes of posting. She's checking your digital footprint obsessively, her best friend Xiomara pointed out over drinks. Xiomara, a Puerto Rican nurse with a no-nonsense attitude and a weakness for expensive tequila, had been through her own devastating breakup 2 years prior. Trust me, when you're over someone, you mute them. You don't watch their stories at 3 in the morning. Ophelia pulled up the viewer list on her latest post. A photo of her morning coffee, nothing special. Zainab's name sat at the top, viewed at 6:47 a.m. She's probably awake thinking about you, Xiomara continued. That's sign number 1. The person who's truly moved on doesn't need to know what you had for breakfast. The second sign came in the form of mutual friends. Their friend Lakshmi, Indian American, a software engineer with a dry sense of humor, texted Ophelia out of nowhere. Just so you know, Z asked about you yesterday, tried to make it casual, but it wasn't. When Ophelia pressed for details, Lakshmi explained that Zainab had brought Ophelia up organically during a conversation about photography, then steered the discussion toward questions. Was Ophelia doing okay? Had she mentioned Zainab? Was she seeing anyone? Classic behavior, Dr. Kim confirmed during their next session. She's using proxies to gather information without breaking no contact herself. It indicates she's struggling with the separation but isn't ready to admit it directly. 3 weeks into no contact, Ophelia started seeing Zainab everywhere, or rather, she started seeing the strategic absence of Zainab everywhere. Their regular coffee shop in Fort Greene, the one where they'd spent countless Sunday mornings reading the newspaper and sharing almond croissants, had suddenly become Ophelia's solo sanctuary. She went there deliberately, almost as a test. The barista, a young non-binary person named River with platinum hair and kind eyes, noticed immediately. Haven't seen Zainab in weeks, River mentioned while making Ophelia's oat milk latte. She used to come in every other day, even after, well, but lately, nothing. That's when Ophelia understood. Zainab was avoiding all their shared spaces. The bookstore on Court Street where they used to browse for hours. Ophelia learned from the owner that Zainab had switched to ordering online. The yoga studio where they'd taken Sunday morning classes together. Zainab had canceled her membership. Even the park bench overlooking the Manhattan skyline where they'd had their first kiss. Ophelia went there on a rainy Thursday afternoon and found it conspicuously empty. Avoidance is a coping mechanism, Dr. Kim explained, her fingers steepled thoughtfully. If she were truly indifferent, she'd continue her routines regardless of whether she might run into you. The fact that she's rearranging her entire life around not seeing you suggests she's protecting herself from feelings she's not ready to confront. But the third sign was perhaps the most telling: the phantom texts. It started with that 2:47 a.m. message. I hope you're doing okay. Ophelia stared at it for 20 minutes before Xiomara literally grabbed the phone from her hands. Don't respond, she commanded. Not yet. Let's see if there's more. There was always more. 2 days later, at 11:34 p.m., I heard that new Janelle Monáe album, Made Me Think of You. 3 days after that, at 1:15 a.m., did you ever get your camera fixed? Each message arrived late at night, each one carefully crafted to seem casual but loaded with subtext. They weren't questions that demanded answers. They were lifelines thrown into the dark, testing if Ophelia was still there, still thinking about her. She's breadcrumbing, Xiomara said flatly. But here's the thing. People don't send breadcrumbs to someone they're over. They send them to someone they're trying not to need. Ophelia found herself analyzing every word, every punctuation mark. The lack of emojis suggested Zainab was trying to maintain distance. The timing suggested sleepless nights and wine-induced vulnerability. The content suggested she was living in memories, unable to move forward. Dr. Kim offered a different perspective. These messages are safe for her. They maintain connection without requiring commitment, but they also reveal emotional turbulence. Someone at peace with their decision doesn't reach out repeatedly during vulnerable hours. The fourth sign emerged through social media again, but this time it was about what Zainab wasn't posting. Before the breakup, Zainab's Instagram had been a curated gallery of their life together. Subtle couple photos, shared moments, inside jokes in the captions. After the breakup, during those first weeks, there had been the performative "I'm fine" posts. But now, 3 weeks in, there was something different. A deliberate absence of any romantic content, any mention of moving on, any hint of dating. Lakshmi confirmed what Ophelia suspected. She's not seeing anyone. Trust me, I'd know. And when I casually mentioned that dating app I'm on, she got weird and changed the subject immediately. Week 4 of no contact brought an unexpected revelation, delivered by Zainab's younger sister, Amara, who'd always liked Ophelia better than she probably should have. They ran into each other at a Eritrean restaurant in Crown Heights. Pure coincidence, though Ophelia wondered if the universe was trying to tell her something. Amara, 23 and studying architecture at Pratt, had Zainab's same honey-colored eyes, but a more open demeanor, less guarded. Can we talk? Amara asked, and something in her voice made Ophelia agree. Over sambusas and strong coffee, Amara painted a picture that made Ophelia's chest tight. She's not doing well, Ophelia. I know she won't tell you that, and I'm probably breaking some sister code by being here, but someone needs to say it. The fifth sign, Amara explained, was the subtle self-destruction that Zainab was engaging in, the kind that looks like independence but smells like avoidance. Zainab had thrown herself into work with an intensity that bordered on manic. She was taking on extra shifts at the publishing house, volunteering for weekend assignments, staying late every night. She'd stopped cooking, the thing she loved most, the thing that had always grounded her. Her apartment, according to Amara who'd visited, was pristine but empty, like a hotel room rather than a home. She's running, Amara said quietly. from feelings, from memories, from herself. And the thing is, she thinks she's convincing everyone that she's fine. But I know my sister. She does this thing where she becomes hyper-productive when she's falling apart inside. There was more. Zainab had stopped writing poetry, something she'd done since she was 14. She'd declined a reading invitation she'd been excited about for months. She was drinking more. Not problematically, Amar insisted, but noticeably. A glass of wine with dinner had become a bottle, shared with no one. And she asks about you, Amar admitted. Not directly, but in this way where she tries to act like it's casual. Has Ophelia been posting any new photos? Or I wonder if Ophelia ever finished that gallery project. It's constant, but she pretends it's not. Dr. Kim helped Ophelia process this information during their next session. Sometimes the person who initiates a breakup suffers just as much, if not more, than the person who is left. They carry the guilt, the what-ifs, the burden of having made a choice they're not sure was right. Zainab's behavior suggests someone who's trying to outrun regret. But Ophelia was struggling with her own question. If Zainab was hurting this much, why wasn't she just reaching out properly? Why the cryptic texts, the social media stalking, the breadcrumbs? Fear, Dr. Kim answered simply. Fear of vulnerability, fear of being wrong, fear of repeating patterns. Some people would rather suffer in silence than risk rejection or admit they made a mistake. Xiomara had a blunter take when they met for their weekly dinner. Pride, babe, pure pride. She ended it, so she thinks she has to stick with that decision even if it's killing her. It's ego dressed up as self-respect. That night, Ophelia lay in bed and read through all of Zainab's messages again. 5 texts over 4 weeks, each one a tiny crack in the facade Zainab was trying to maintain. Each one a question mark wrapped in a period. She thought about responding. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard multiple times, but something held her back. Maybe it was Dr. Kim's voice reminding her that no contact was for her healing, not just a strategy to get Zainab back. Maybe it was her own pride. Maybe it was wisdom. Week 6 of no contact arrived with autumn in full force, and with it came the moment Ophelia had been both dreading and anticipating. It was a Friday night, unseasonably cold for October. Ophelia was at Xiomara's apartment for their ritual Friday movie night when her phone buzzed. Not a text this time, a call. Zainab's name lit up the screen at 9:47 p.m. Don't answer it, Xiomara said automatically, but her voice lacked conviction. Ophelia stared at the ringing phone, her heart doing complicated acrobatics in her chest. 4 rings, 5, 6, then it stopped. 30 seconds later, a voicemail notification appeared. Okay, you have to listen to it, Xiomara conceded. But put it on speaker, I'm your witness. The voicemail was 2 minutes and 37 seconds long. Ophelia would later memorize every word. Hi, it's me. I know I'm not supposed to call, and I know this breaks the no contact thing, but I can't do this anymore, Ophelia. The silence, the pretending. I've been walking around for 6 weeks acting like I'm fine, like this was the right decision, like I don't think about you every single day, multiple times, all the time, actually. There was a pause, the sound of Zainab's breath, shaky and uncertain. I keep typing messages to you and deleting them. I've written you probably 50 letters I'll never send. I check your Instagram like it's the news. I avoid our entire neighborhood because I'm terrified I'll see you and completely fall apart. Amara told me she ran into you and I pretended I didn't care. But I asked her 12 questions about how you looked, if you seemed happy, if you mentioned me. Another pause, longer this time. I don't know what I'm asking for. I'm not even sure I have the right to ask for anything. I'm the one who left. I'm the one who said I needed space. But here's what I've learned. Space without you just feels like absence. And I think I made a mistake. A big one. The vulnerability in Zainab's voice was almost painful to hear. You don't have to call me back. You don't owe me anything. But I needed you to know that I'm not okay. I haven't been okay. And all those signs you've probably been looking for, the late night texts, the social media checking, the asking about you through friends, they're all true. They're all me trying to stay connected to you while pretending I don't need to be. One final pause and then, I miss you, Ophelia. I miss you so much it feels like a physical ache, and I'm sorry. For leaving, for the silence, for making you doubt what we had. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're okay. I hope you can forgive me someday. The voicemail ended. Ophelia and Shiomara sat in silence for a full minute. Then Shiomara, ever practical, asked the question that mattered. What do you want to do? That was the thing, wasn't it? Not what she should do according to the rules of no contact, not what would protect her pride or prove a point, but what she actually wanted. Ophelia thought about the last 6 weeks. The pain, yes, but also the growth. The therapy sessions with Dr. Kim, where she'd learned to identify her own patterns of codependency. The photography project she'd started that had nothing to do with Zainab and everything to do with reclaiming her own artistic voice. The nights with Shiomara and Lakshmi, laughing until her stomach hurt, remembering who she was outside of a relationship. She thought about Zainab, too. The woman she'd fallen in love with at that poetry slam. The woman who'd made her coffee every morning, with a level of care that bordered on ritual. The woman who'd once told her that loving Ophelia felt like coming home to a place she'd never been, but somehow always belonged. I need to think, Ophelia said finally. This isn't a decision I can make in the moment. Dr. Kim's office the following Tuesday became a space for unpacking everything. The question isn't whether Zainab is struggling, Dr. Kim said gently. Clearly she is. The question is whether her struggle has led to genuine insight and change, or whether this is just the discomfort of consequence. They talked about the patterns that had led to the breakup, Zainab's tendency to retreat when things felt too intense, Ophelia's tendency to pursue when she felt Zainab pulling away. They talked about whether 6 weeks was enough time for real transformation, or whether this was just the first cycle of a pattern that would repeat. There are no guarantees, Dr. Kim reminded her. But if you decide to respond, do it from a place of clarity, not desperation, and set boundaries from the beginning. That night, Ophelia finally listened to the voicemail again. Then she did something she hadn't done in 6 weeks. She wrote Zainab a message. Not a quick response, but a thoughtful one, written and rewritten over 2 hours. I got your voicemail. I've listened to it more times than I probably should admit. Here's what I need you to know. I hear you, and I believe too. The signs were all there. The digital surveillance, the mutual friend interrogations, the strategic avoidance, the late-night breadcrumbs, the subtle self-destruction. Each one a crack in the armor Zainab had tried to build, each one revealing the truth beneath the silence. She was struggling, she was hurting, she was questioning her decision. But here's what Ophelia learned through those 6 weeks of no contact. Recognizing that your ex is struggling doesn't mean you have to rescue them. It doesn't mean you were wrong to respect the space they asked for, and it certainly doesn't mean you should compromise your own healing to ease their discomfort. No contact isn't about manipulation or game playing. It's about creating space for clarity for both people. Sometimes that clarity leads to reconciliation. Sometimes it leads to genuine closure. And sometimes it leads to a more honest conversation about whether the relationship can be rebuilt on a healthier foundation. Ophelia and Zainab's story didn't end that Tuesday night. It evolved. Whether that evolution leads to a second chance or a graceful goodbye remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the silence spoke volumes, and learning to listen to what wasn't being said was perhaps the most important lesson of all. If you're in no contact with your ex, pay attention to the signs, but pay even more attention to yourself. to your healing, your growth, your boundaries. Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. What's your experience with no contact? Have you noticed any of these signs? Share your story in the comments below.